Okay, hi everybody, welcome to my studio. I hope that you're all doing okay, hanging in there with your increased, I think, regulations and so on. Things here are okay. My New York people seem to be doing okay. But wow, what a time we're in. So, it's not easy to segue from that, but I'm going to try. Let's talk about art and weaving. So I just wanted to show you around my studio. These are some new things I've been up to. Usually I don't show students much of what's going on in my studio, but somehow I think this is an unusual semester. So I've been making these 15 by 15 inch paintings. Also, here's my painting of a possum skull and a possum jaw bones that I found in the yard. But this just gives you an idea of some of the experiments that I've been up to. Just really trying to move paint around on surfaces and see how it works. I've got some new paints, so I'm pretty unfamiliar with them. So these are nowhere near completion. They aren't really things in themselves, but they're just thoughts about painting and color. And I'll show you another one that's on my desk. This is a grid of 4. So anyway, what I'd like to do today is talk to you a little bit about the PowerPoint presentation that I sent to you about weaving and weavers. So what we're going to do is go through those slides together, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about these artists, and then I want to tell you a little bit about your own weaving. I hope you're enjoying that. Okay, so let's go to the PowerPoint. If you have that, open it up. Okay, so to start off, we start out with an artist who's no longer living. Her name is Annie Albers. She was a German Jew who left Germany during World War II with her husband Joseph Albers. Annie had studied art at the Bauhaus movement. Bauhaus, very, very important to know about. If you study in the Western tradition of art, which you all do by virtue of being at NYU, but Bauhaus really started that form of art school where students made work and then engaged in critiques. So Annie Albers was a student of the Bauhaus. She and her husband, Joseph Albers, came to the States during World War II, as I said, and they taught at Black Mountain College, which was an experimental college in North Carolina. Annie Albers was committed to weaving as a form. She thought of weaving as in the same plane as painting. She went and studied weaving in South America, and she worked a lot on design. Design that is based on the grid, and her argument was that weaving is a fundamental art to all cultures, and it is really the origin of the grid. And she also argued for the intelligence of craft, the intelligence of working with the hands, and that eludes language. So she made prints and paintings and designs that were all very much based on the grid and on weaving. Very important person to know about. Okay, next slide is a group of slides for Santa KV. This is an artist I learned about when I went to the Kochi Biennial in Kerala 2 years ago. I believe that Santa works out of a weaving center in Kerala, and I think anyone can go there to learn to weave. And these were rugs that were made that I thought were extraordinary for their color. These are tapestry weaves. I don't like the way at all that they were shown at the biennial. I thought they weren't well lit, but that was my own critique. But I think, again, the colors and her combinations are really interesting. It definitely approaches painting, or we can think of these weavings as decorative as paintings. Next person to know about, Sheila Hicks. Okay, so these are very important slides. I would look at these again and again. Sheila Hicks is a major U.S. textile artist, contemporary artist, who studied with Joseph and Annie Albers, and she she was painting grids only, and then she realized, well, what I'm doing really is weaving, so why don't I just learn to weave? So she makes these small weavings, which you definitely can do with a cardboard loom or with the little wooden looms that you have, And I just think the variation she gets and the experiments she makes, the twists, the colors are just extraordinary. If you look at the third slide of hers, you'll see that white thing in the middle is actually a shell that she's incorporated into her weave. I think it's outstanding. So please look at these for ideas about what you can do, even with a small loom. Okay, the next group of slides, this is Priya Ravish Mehra. And she's an Indian artist who works with weaving, but also with garment repair. So she has all of these methods by which she adheres fibers together. They're not necessarily weaving, but they look a lot like weaving, and I liked her use of non-traditional fibers. So she works with jute and material from the natural world, and her technique is almost like making paper. She uses pulp and water and adhesives. So I just wanted to show that to you. Again, I saw her work at the last Kochi Biennial and thought it was quite beautiful. The next group of slides, this is my friend, Tali Weinberg, who makes weavings that are designed to illustrate drought patterns in the US, in the West. So this is an example of conceptual art. Can I give you that? So Talia's work could be considered conceptual because she uses research and materials and concept, statistics, to actually inform the work that she makes, and conceptual artists do that. If you're interested in conceptual art in general as a category, you should look it up. Tons written about it. But I wanted to introduce this to you because I was thinking that for your paper weaving project, you could definitely do something conceptual. What if you took a syllabus from a class and cut it up, and that became your warp, and then your own writings or the weft that goes between it? I mean, the possibilities are endless. What if you took a poster about how to wash your hands, and then you took a diary entry expressing anxiety from these times and interwove it? So that's an example of pushing the paper weaving not just to think about color and texture, but also the concepts of weaving. What two things are being brought together in your life right now? And that would end up being a conceptual project, and I'll show you mine in a little bit. Okay, so that's Tali Weinberg. Her work is fantastic. Please look her up, and you can see other things that she does. And the last person I wanted to talk to you about is Brent Wadden. So if you click on that link, you can read an article about his work. He calls his works paintings, but they're made through weaving. He does not think of himself as a textile artist. He learned to weave because he thought it was interesting. His training and background is in painting, and so he calls these things that are weavings paintings. I have some problems with this. I think it's a kind of a masculinist move to do so. It diminishes the history of textile and weaving, which I think is problematic, but I can also see where he's coming from, that to him these are shape, form, surface, and that they stand in the same place as painting. So he, I think, is interesting to look at because his weaving techniques are very, very simple. He's self-taught, yet he introduces interesting stripes and patterns, and he'll often take two weavings, stretch them over stretcher bars. Remember what you did with your embroideries? And then he puts those two panels together. So yeah, interesting to look at. I recommend looking at his work. Okay, I don't want this to be too long, but hopefully that gave you a little bit of an idea of what artists do using weaving and the kinds of weavings that they make. Then this is just a small sampling of them. So I wanted to show you an idea about, again, going back to conceptual art and the idea that your paper weaving could be conceptual. And I think I'm going to post these images on our blog, but I'll also show you the paper weaving that I'm working on. Let's see if you can see it. So what I've done here is I've taken my studio notes. Whenever I'm working in the studio, at the end of the day, I take notes so I can remember what I've thought about. And I've rewritten my studio notes on this brown paper. So this has essentially become my warp. And then the weft is this green paper, And the green paper is a list of artists that I've been looking at and thinking about lately. And I went ahead and interwove those, kind of symbolizing then that looking at artists informs my own work as much as my own inventiveness. So really it's a kind of a conceptual project and a little bit of a snapshot of this time in my life. Okay, so what you're gonna do in the next week ahead is more weaving, and you can take it in any direction that you want. I want you to have fun. Weaving does take time, so plan ahead, give yourself plenty of time. But experiment, maybe mix paper and fiber. Maybe do a conceptual project. Maybe experiment with lines, with shape. Maybe take two weavings like Brent Wadden, maybe yours will be small. Put them together. What does that look like? And stay tuned for some more videos from Judy, which have been amazing. It's an incredible teaching tool, and I'm really, really grateful to you, Judy, for doing that. So I think that concludes my little mini lecture on weaving. Hopefully you've gotten a little bit of art history here, and I hope that you look these things up on your own as well, and keep weaving and post your images. Okay, I'll say goodbye for now, and I'll see you again soon, and again hoping that you're all doing as well as possible. Okay, miss you. Bye.